Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody, Militia Man and Crew, and today is the 25th of August. Yeah, summer's coming to a close, a couple more weeks, and we're going to be heading towards the fall. Hey, anyway, I'd like to get into a few articles today, and one is going to be a little bit lengthy, but I think the impact is going to be important because of what all the things that we're seeing do are what is being done, that Iraq is basically integrating into the global financial system. And all of the collective things that we've talked about, and it sounds like it's just repetitive, but it's just one thing after another that seems to pop up that supports that fact that Iraq is integrating, and that's it. But here's an article called "The Trade Investment Agreements to Improve the Business Environment." Well, isn't that one of the components of Iraq's reforms, is to bring confidence, have economic stability, sustainability? Absolutely. The Iraqi Ministry of Trade has concluded a number of trade and economic and investment agreements with relevant authorities in 3 foreign countries. I think there's a lot more than that, but in this particular case, they're talking about Serbia, they're talking about the United States, they're talking about the Swiss. He goes in this particular part, he says there is a proposal to hold a joint forum between the Iraqi and American private sectors to review investment opportunities and joint projects. Basically, they're talking about goods and services, implementation of economic reforms, including the adoption of intellectual property. Intellectual property is going to be a very big thing in all countries, and also a launch of the e-trader. It's a platform to regulate market activity, enhance oversight, and protect the rights of producers and consumers. So that'll be a big thing that's coming up in Iraq. At the end of the day, talking about the Swiss, it says they have a contract for specialized companies to establish mills and silos. So remember one thing, there are going to be a lot of people moving into Iraq, and there's a lot of population growth, and they're going to need extra mills and silos. And they're going to need lots of spare parts and materials and all that stuff. So the Swiss are going to be involved in that. And they're basically stating that they'll bring in some of the highest standards of quality and productivity. But look, if you think about it for a minute, you go, look, over the last 15 years, or in some people's case, maybe 20, the level of growth that Iraq has come to at this stage, aside from ISIS in the past and all those other circumstances, whether it's political, etc., you'll see that we have during that 15 years, we have the accession to the TIR, the trucking, okay, cross borders. They've tested it, it's working, they're doing that. They also have the Port of Fa. The Port of Fa is bringing in massive ships. One of the largest ships they've ever had in history just showed up in the last few days. The production of liquid natural gas is being exported now. So the inputs and outputs in the country, as far as you accountants probably understand that, and economics, it is a big thing. Iraq is filthy with natural resources, and so they're going to take advantage of both inputs and outputs. And so if they're starting to export, that means there's going to be a surplus. And we all already saw that, I think yesterday or the day before, there is a few $1 billion of surplus starting already. So we talk about the Escada system. That's the system that is going to be a fair taxation, one of the things that supports international integration to that global financial system. So the Port of Fa, you got the TIR, you got the Escada system, you got e-government, you got all the big businesses coming in. You have a energy forum coming up on the 6th and 7th. With some of the biggest energy companies in the world are showing up. So it tells you a story, and so does this. And we talked about this the other night, but the credit rating, so they're still hammering it home. One of the key components for having a redenomination, revaluation type scenario is that they need to educate people. And if you remember back, Al-Sudani and Mohammed Saleh, they all talked about we need to have trust. We need to have that vocal. We need to let people know what are we doing. Central banks, same thing. And that's what they're doing. Credit rating is a big issue when it comes to stability, especially for for investors. They're going to want to see all of these components that Iraq has been doing is all taking place in real time. And it's a collective, okay? There's obviously going to come a point in time when enough is enough already. I feel it just like everybody else. I know that everybody's getting worn out, but the bottom line is that you see progress, stuff that you've never seen before. And a lot of this, banter that I've been here for 20 years, and it's the same old story. It's the same old story. It is to some degree, but it's so much more advanced that you're not giving it credit, because we didn't have all these systems 15 years ago. We had no idea, but we didn't have all the electronic systems. We didn't have that SWIFT ISO 20022. We didn't have those things. We didn't have all this currency manipulation laws and anti-money laundering and counter terrorism financing issues. We didn't have all that, but all that stuff is in place now. So here again, the credit rating is a big issue. It's because it shows that Iraq has credibility and credit. Okay, which reduces costs for association of materials and loans, for instance, to do these major projects. It gives, again, credibility. So the credit rating is another issue. Al-Sudani he's formed a joint national team, which we've talked about, and who's involved. These teams' what's the mission? The primary mission is to coordinate directly with leadership of international credit ratings, Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. I think there's an article out this evening that talks about that they have a B stable rating. Okay, so they're focused in on being stable. They're not negative. It's good. Those things take a long time to do, but again, they didn't say which entity that I could remember that did this, but I showed that there was only one that was probably due, and it's one of the three, but it doesn't matter. It does matter that all of them give a credit rating, but all three of them haven't really jumped out and give them a new one. But today we saw that they are stable, which is good. The Securities Commission, they had a representation team that will support and attract regional and international companies and production and service sectors to establish investment partnerships with Iraqi private sector, and also to participate in financial markets investing in Iraqi stocks. They talk about Oliver Wyman again. It talks about the Rafidane Bank, partnerships with K2 International, and realize that K2 International has a partnership with the Key Card. So those things are also important to remember. Basically, what are they talking about? They're just going to try to have and take comprehensive steps for the government, having been committed to strengthening these financial institutions in the country. They're talking about the governance, risk management, developing the business environment, and obviously the economic reform plans. And ultimately, having improved credit rating shows that they have commitment, and it's going to be just deriving international confidence in the Iraqi economy. And obviously, they're totally focused in on this because, again, K2 Integrity is a very public, very big company, and they have been showing that Iraq is maintaining what they need to do. They need to have that security and stability, and that's what K2 has been there for. And once again, K2 is collaborating with the key cards, electronic payments. I'm not sure if you guys realize how important that is in this system, is that one of the things about a redenomination, revaluation, and effectively applying a real effective exchange rate is reducing the note count. Iraq's been working on that reduction for many, many years. I think it goes back to 2018 where we saw a video, destroying perfectly good 25K notes. But however, in the last 2 to 3 years, Al-Sudani has been involved, K2, Ernst & Young, Oliver Wyman, etc., have been involved to mold a country into what is acceptable for integration into the global financial system. And one of the things that you're going to find is to be true is that part of that process is a reduction in note count. That's what these electronic payments do. That's what credit cards do, or key cards do. That's what national, I'm not sure about the national cards, but effectively, but key cards do electronic transactions. Yeah, so electronic transactions, doesn't matter if you're at the gas station or if you're going to the state institutions and you're paying your electric bill or you're buying, even goods at grocery stores. They've increased the electronic payments, I think, well over 50%. I think they had it at about 5%. I think it's going to be around 50% now that they do that. And every time someone swipes their card at the gas station, it's just using less cash. Same with paying your electric bill. It's just less cash that they're using. And so basically that's where Iraq has been going, towards a less cash environment. So anyway, finance minister here, it says, Iraq is witnessing tangible progress in tax reform. Well, interestingly enough, when you pay your taxes, you can swipe your card and pay your taxes, less cash. Taif Sami comes out and she says that they're witnessing tangible progress. There was a tax conference for economic development and investment promotion, and it was chaired by Shia al-Sudani in the Ministry of Finance, and basically it's developing the tax system in line with international standards, which is going to contribute to diversifying non-oil revenue sources, all with electronic payments, increasing the state's financial resources, of course. It says the objectives of National Reform Plan for 2025 to 2030 are to boost domestic revenues with the funding from the European Union, the German organizations, a review of the tax ceilings, expand electronic payment and collection services, and enhance financial inclusion. Okay, so what does the key card do? Well, it's modernizing the banking system. For what? Financial inclusion. So all of that stuff is coming into play. It says it aims to stimulate economic legislation and investment activity in line with international transparency requirements, create an attractive and conducive business environment for the private sector, improve the economic operating environment for increasing the efficiency of financial procedures, obviously reducing red tape, encouraging startup projects, and also enhancing citizen and investor confidence. So you see where this is headed, is that this theme today is about investors. It's about increasing revenues, talking about stability, the new modernization, all of these things that's taking place. And they're doing it in a full court press, if you will, for those basketball players out there. It's intense, and they're really pushing forward, and they're not stopping. So here's the Prime Minister. It says, we have succeeded in achieving a significant leap in increasing non-oil resources. Well, that's what Taif Sami's talking about. It says that the government's achieved significant leap in increasing non-oil resources, while noting that tax revenues increased in 2024 by 26%. So money's coming in, money's flowing. And how are they paying it? Yeah, you get the picture. The government has given the greatest attention to reforming, sustaining economic sector, and the gateway to this reform is supporting the private sector by providing an attractive environment for investors and capital, adopting international standards for doing business and tax accounting, and ensuring flexibility and fairness. I know it sounds a little bit boring, but the bottom line is investors don't care about boring, they care about their money. The world is moving towards, you know what, so do I. I care about it. That's why I'm hoping that this is something that's coming to an end, because I care about it. The world's moving towards today unifying tax procedures, so it's not just Iraq, it's the world, and laws that align with international standards. So Iraq's in progress in this area, which opens the door wide to foreign and local investors, strengthening partnerships with the private sector, and instills confidence in the Iraqi market. It says economic reform decisions were exploited for slogans in an atmosphere of misinformation. So we had a lot of fake news going around. Well, that's coming to an end. It says that they have worked to increase these non-oil revenues, and they've succeeded in achieving a significant leap, increasing those resources, non-oil resources. And it talked about it rose from 7% in 2022 to 14% in 2024. And then now it's talking about the revenues increased by, in 2024, 26% compared to the previous year, and increased by 3% more in this year. Basically, what's been done is the reforms achieved to date at this stage are a message to the citizens to support their political system and manage resources optimally. So ultimately, al-Sudani has done a stellar job. The plan for digital transformation and financial inclusion, it has come a long way. The evidence of this is all over the place. It basically shows that the non-oil and oil sectors is going to be fascinating to see just how much revenue streams they come in, because we all know that Iraq isn't just about oil, but it's about all of the other components that come with it. So anyway, what I'd like to go talk about just a little bit is electronic payments and card state institutions, cards in the state institutions. So electronic payments using electronic cards, state institutions, and even at gas stations. And it might sound frivolous, but it's more than that. Again, I told you it's taxes. It's even at the grocery stores. It's all gas stations. And what do you buy at the gas stations? Well, you buy food too, and all that, right? So that's all swiped with a card. It says the General Company for Oil Products, there's an article, part of the Ministry of Oil revealed on Monday that electronic payment transactions for services provided to citizens have generated revenues of more than 700 billion dinars, which is effectively taking money off the streets, out of the informal market. That's what that means. The company's plan to end cash transactions and transition to electronic payments has reached advanced stages, adding that the company's sales of its products have reached 1.1 trillion dinars per month, which 720 billion dinars are for electronic payments, which represents 2/3 of the company's sales. That's just one company. So when you have 100 trillion outstanding, and then you have half the population have key cards, 18 million, and they have 77,000 or upwards of 80,000 points of sale in the country, you can see just how dramatic it has been, because the gas stations were mandated in 2024. The state institutions were this year in 2025 to be able to do all this. And think about it. Here's one company. That's how much money they can redact off the streets. So when they want to reduce note counts, they can do it, and they're doing it quite well. Central bank has a control over that. We'll see. So the Iraqi Private Banks Association announced on Sunday the issuance of more than 18 million electronic payment cards across the country, while noting that the number of payment points increased to approximately 60,000. But I think that the evidence suggested 60 to 70,000 in other reports, but they did another 7,000. So we're pushing 80. That's just how I look at it. It says banks are continuing to support various projects, explaining the financial ceilings for small, medium, and large projects. Small, medium, and large projects are the backbone of the banks and emerging markets. That's just the way it is. And that's what they're taking advantage of, and they're going to, effectively exploit that. Okay, determined by each financial institution based on their nature of their project, its capital and number of employees, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to just keep track of what they're doing, small, medium, and large, and they will have capital for various sizes for those particular businesses. Okay, small, medium, and large. So anyway, here it goes on and talks about these 7,000 additional payment points that I was talking about. Indirectly shows that Iraq has made improvements on financial infrastructure by the expansion of electronic payments, and it talks about, what does it do? It lowers inflation. It lowers inflation. And where you've heard that Iraq is less than 3%, well, it's even less than that, even from those quotes. They said that it was at 1.5 to 1.8%. That's a big deal. So that's part of it. Using electronic payments helps reduce inflation. And then it also helps reduce the parallel market. So it goes on and says that electronic payments, gas stations, okay, yeah, I already touched on that. There was a 2024 mandate, and 2025 banning cash at state institutions was part of it. What is it for? It's encouraging deposits and bank accounts for digital transactions, pulling cash out of informal circulation, taking it off the street. Encouraging deposits and bank accounts for digital transactions, pulling cash from the informal market. Reducing cash velocity. Reducing cash velocity is basically taking notes out of the citizens' hands. That's basically what that comes down to. Allowing the central bank to collect excess notes and potentially not reissue them, shrinking the physical money supply. So, which is the MO. KeyCard, as Iraq's leading fintech provider, plays a pivotal role in the transition through its biometric-enabled debit and credit cards, mobile apps, and POS infrastructure. And what's the impact? Well, 18 million cards and additional 7,000 point-of-sale devices is a big thing. KeyCards reported 18 million electronic cards. That's how many cards? That's half the population. Not quite, but really close. Okay, they're young populations, so if you think about it, I think they're probably under 30 years of age. The major percentage of the population. What is it also doing? It's increasing financial inclusion. And this is the numbers that they talk about, that there's approximately 43 million people, and 18 million is roughly about 40 to 42% of that population. And ultimately, what's the impact on cash circulation? Using electronic payments for fuel, taxes, and salary deposits, cash into banks, accounts for their cards. Okay, that's what they're doing. So in other words, if you don't have a card and you got cash, you got to go put that money on your card to be able to pay your electric bill. So anyway, it says the CBI reported that about 87 to 90% of Iraq's 100 trillion dinars. I think that's a little bit less now. And it says the money is held outside the cash, outside banks in cash. It says widespread card use directly reduces this figure. And they haven't even told you about, they've been insinuated that they had a mandate in 2024 and they have another one on 2025. And so we're already in August. Okay, so 18 months, 20 months, really close, if you will, from 2024 for gas. Everybody has to buy gas to go to work, right? Okay, so you can see how big that really is. So the government's transactions, 2025 mandate for state institution go cashless benefits. Again, with 18 million cards, the Rafidane Bank is 2.65 trillion dinars in electronic settlements for government institutions alone in 2025. So I think you can start seeing how this is working out. Scalability, this POS networks, by their increase, it says 2025 mandate by enabling digital payments for government institutions and private merchants with over 20,000 POS merchants and 10,000 cash agents in KeyCard's broader ecosystem. The infrastructure is so robust, it's enough to handle the cashless transitions for taxes, fees, and other transactions, which again reduces the need for physical notes in high-value government interactions. So you just start to get this picture. It reduces the cash velocity. We already talked about that. But it also has economic policy implications. Basically, the implications of reduction of the note count, it supports Iraq's currency stability and reduces costs of cash handling because it's electronic, and it's aligning with the CBI's goals of a cashless future. Whether you like it or not, that effectively, they're just going to reduce the cash that's going to be used. And by doing so, if you reduce supply, right, value goes up. I think you guys get the basic picture of that. And we're talking about the value of their currency. One of the key things I think I did in one of my videos is that it is a key component. If you're going to do a redenomination or revaluation, reducing the note count supports that. And obviously that's what one of their plans was, is to go cashless, which was what? Reduce the note count. Anyway, that's what I have for you tonight. Hope you guys get it and see what I'm talking about. I know it's kind of a long read, but hey, it is important that you know what you own. And I think it's exciting because if Iraq has reduced their note count as big as I think they have, which they haven't totally exposed yet, all of these things are coming in together. And it's powerful. And like it or not, the no count reduction will be reflected at some point in a real effective exchange rate. That's what I fully believe. So enjoy your evening. Thank you. If you hit the like button, subscribe, that would be killer. And once again, to you all that are helping support Militia Man and Crew, we give you thank you. And PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo are places to do that. Thank you. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.